one of the things that I don't know if this is really going to be a question or a comment, maybe Rebecca or Colin would like to comment on it, but over the years, one of the things that I've noticed with teens is that we adults can project and want to push teens to address their FSH before they're really ready to address their FSH. And I think that's the fault of the adults, right? I think it's important for teens to be able to come to the disease at the time they're ready to sort of think about it. And so I don't know, maybe Colin or Rebecca, if you would like to comment on that, or how, where was the transition for you where you kind of were willing to say, hey, I'm willing to sit in front of a camera and talk about my experiences.
Well, I like to talk, so I only I could talk on camera. I'm fine with it. For me, especially like high school's high school's tough for everyone, and then you add on another element like muscular dystrophy, and it suddenly can seem impossible at times. But I ended up finding a really great group of friends that really surprised me. I told them one day, kind of out of the blue, and at first they're like, oh my gosh, oh, that's so scary. Like, I was like, no. Like, you didn't even know I had it until I said something, right? And they were like, oh, I guess that's true. So I mentioned it to them, and that was kind of the end of the conversation. And my closest friend, Greg, who I'm still very close with, a couple weeks after that, our school was throwing I guess like a bowling alley, fundraiser for the MDA. And Greg walks up to me, he's like, you're going bowling, right? Because I am. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And he's like, for the MDA thing, I'm going for you. Why aren't you going? And I couldn't go at that point, but that was really surprising to just have my best friend out of the blue suddenly be like, I'm going to go do this for you. I'm going to go fundraise for you. And for me, that meant a lot. And suddenly I wasn't really ashamed to tell people that I had this, and I wasn't really afraid of I didn't want to hide it, because it seemed to bring out a lot of good consequences and good things. And when I started talking about it in college, people were only interested about learning more. They weren't like, oh no, like that means you can't do A, B, and C. They were like, oh really? That I never knew. Can you tell me more about it? So as far as being a teenager and growing up and being vocal about it, I only had positive experiences with it. I'm sure it's not for everyone. But I've only had positive experiences talking about it with people. So, you wanted to add anything?
Well, for me, mostly people knew I had something. I mean, obviously, seeing me on the scooter going around the school, it was kind of obvious that I had something. I didn't openly speak about it, like, I don't want to, if someone asked, yes, I'd tell them, and I like explaining stuff, but I didn't openly come out and off the back and say, hey, I have this. And for some people, and sometimes you need to do that so people have the knowledge and everything. But I don't know. From my friends and everything, I explained to them early on, and they've grown accustomed to it. They weren't really bothered by it. They didn't get shocked. They obviously saw, so didn't act any differently. So.
Would anyone from the audience like to speak about your own personal experiences?
Well, I'll speak up because having been married for 21 years now to somebody with FSH. My introduction, I guess we'll call it, to muscular dystrophy, when Lynn told me that she had muscular dystrophy, the first thing I thought of was the standard, oh, Jerry's kids, she's going to be dead in 2 years, so I'm not hanging around with her. Because my experiences, when most people think of FSH, again, muscular dystrophy, Duchenne, they're all kids that are going to die. So the outreach that the FSH Society is providing, and this group, is working on, to get people to understand that what FSH is, how it affects people, is just huge. Because I know in talking with people, when people read us, there's obviously a dramatic difference between William and Colin. And people say, what is this? What's it mean? What's it do? How's this affect you? People don't know. I mean, it's probably the least understood thing out there. And like Wayne said when we were talking earlier, you go to the ER, oh, you have MS, no, MD. So how does MS affect you? He's not MS. If you say FSH, they look at you, fish scales, what? What are you talking about? You have no clue. So really, the continuing education of the public at large as to what this is and how it affects people is essential.
Maybe we could have a session sometime on that. Why is that? I mean, FSH is one of the most common genetic disorders. I mean, it's not that rare. What can we do as a community to increase awareness?
Telling people about it.
Yeah.
But it's something more organized. Each one of us individually.
It really is amazing. So I mean, I took and cut and pasted, June stuff off the FSH webpage just on my page on AOL and or on Facebook. On Facebook. And even people that have known us for years just, well, I didn't know.
I think it has a lot to do with the image that the MBA has put forward over the last 40 or 50 years.
It really does, right?
It's that there's only one image in the public's mind as to what muscular dystrophy is, and that's a young boy in a wheelchair.
Duchenne.
And they don't even know that it's Duchenne.
Yeah, they don't even know it's Duchenne, you're right.
And so everything else gets lumped into MS. I mean, it's just extraordinary to me how common that is amongst us, and we've all experienced that. Oh, I have an MD. Oh, so what's it like to have MS?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. But I think it has a lot to do with the collective image, and how we can change that is.
It would make it feel any better than a lot of my friends think I work on MS.
I think, it's funny because you asked about, being thrown into that, which I'm sure I do to Colin quite a lot. I.e. today, although I did ask him. Colin, would you like to sit on the panel and discuss?
I appreciate you doing
But I think people, I think people are more afraid. I was actually out one day and a child kept staring. And the mom's like, stop staring. And I turned around and I said, it's okay. And you have it, you have to address it. We teach our kids to be afraid of something they don't know. And I think if we teach kids to just understand, and just people in general, people are afraid of the unknown. So if you do away with the unknown, people will be more open to, I'm sorry, I'm not crying, it's my underwater. People will be more open to asking questions. So, the little girl that was staring, I just, said, I know it looks very scary, but it doesn't hurt. I just kind of made light of it. And I just turned around and said, I have a type of muscle disease. And she was old enough to kind of understand. She wasn't like a little girl. And she was like probably 10. And, I just opened it up and left it for the mom. I remember being at the park with Colin. He was probably 5 years old, and the dad said, your son just seemed so sad. And at first, a mother's instinct is to become the mama bear. And I could tell all this anger just was piling up. And I just had to take light of it and go, no, he's not. I said, he actually has a muscle disease. I said that he can't smile. And Dad just kind of looked at me like, what do you mean he can't smile? And then, we got a chance to talk. We were there, our kids were playing together. So I took those 15, 20 minutes and explained to him what FSH was. And he goes, well, I had no idea there's more than one type of muscular dystrophy. That's what it comes down to is just educating people. You know, I go to a leadership school up in New Jersey where there's probably 800 people, and you know, I've had the opportunity to speak and let people know, and people, you know, as new people come in, they just, you know, I heard they had MD, and then a friend of mine actually said a friend of hers was diagnosed with ALS. And she goes, that's not what you have, right? And I said, no, no, no. But even when they've been told, they forget. So it's just constantly having to tell people and remind them.
My question has more to do with teens with FSH, though. So over the decades, you know, sitting in Karen's house in particular, you know, there are a number of occasions that I recall vividly where parents brought young teens with FSH to the FSH meeting, and you could just see these kids close up, and their body language got all closed, and then you wouldn't see them for a decade. Because it's like coming to that environment. They were not yet ready to see others with FSH. You know, the environment was such that people are sort of encouraged to talk about what they're experiencing. They weren't ready to talk about it. And it was almost like, I don't know because I didn't know those children specifically, but it was almost like we did damage to them by bringing them into the group before they were ready. And I'm interested in what others feel about that, or if they've experienced that. I'm sure, you know, Dawn and Judy remember some of those experiences, and I just remember it very vividly how these children just weren't ready yet to be there.
I could comment on that. Being Karen's brother, everything was right in front of me, and my sister would plead and beg, you know, please come to the meetings, and I wasn't ready. I took a particular stand in the way that I felt about my disease, and I stuck with it. Whether it was right or wrong, that's the way I did. I don't have any regrets growing up. I've had a great life, but at least she asked. She didn't bombard me, or she didn't, you know, trick me into coming, and then, you know, or, you know, my mom.
Over Sunday.
Yeah. You know, my mom and sister, they never guilted me into coming. You know, I knew that I was always welcome. And I did come to a few of them, and, you know, just to see what it was like. And yes, I did notice the children, the teens that came, you know, that it was pitiful. They were scared to death. You know, and nothing really was presented at that time. It was more, the meeting was more on an adult level, and I don't think that we knew how to really handle it at that time. So, you know, I know what you're saying. So, you know, this meeting and others will help to educate. Had an MDA out there to telethon. That was plain and simple. That's how that got on. So, in my opinion, the way to get back at that is to talk with producers and directors, and who has been at the MDA Society, and say, hey, look, you know, why don't one of your segments explain the different types of muscular dystrophy, or you know, just something to that. You know, go to the source. That's what I said.
Well, I just wanted to say how brave Connie is for being up there. I was 17 when I went to my first convention, and I believe it was in Boston quite a while ago. And I broke down. I couldn't handle it. But the shock and awe that first appeared vanished the second time I went. Because I said, you know what? There were some really cool people there. And it was the integration that I had with the people that kind of unveiled the true beauty in what the convention really had to offer. And so even though it was a little shocking, even though I kind of felt like I wasn't ready, it did propel me to think in a way to say, to kind of not deny, or you know, put myself down with to, you know, I've got this, let's adapt. And I think I find a lot of FSHers to be very adaptable people, quite ingenious to be frank. I mean, the way I comb my hair, this one girl was talking to me how she figured out the same way. Even though we never spoke, she does it the same way, and her friends kind of look at her like, wow, that's really cool that you can still comb your hair, even though, yeah, you take an extra arm to do it. I mean, you're still doing it, and you persevere, and the fact that Colin plays chess to keep his mind moving. Personally, I love chess. I used to play in chess tournaments, and even though you become disabled, you can still play chess all you want. And so finding those niches in life to really put your passion and your efforts in just shows how brave and committed they are to themselves. Even though they might not see it as that, especially at such a young age, it provides inspiration to others like myself. Even though I am older than you, Colin, you provide inspiration to me to see that you are so determined, so brave, and confident in yourself at such a young age. And with so much going against you, you will be so much stronger than some people that have been given in their life. You're taking what you want, and that's what really matters.